Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the Entrepreneurship Cell, I'm really happy to welcome you all to today's session. As aspiring entrepreneurs, we all know that networking and personal branding are just as important as our ideas themselves. And in today's world, one of the best places to do that is LinkedIn. We've all heard that LinkedIn is the place for professionals, but many of us still aren't sure how to actually use it, how to build a strong presence, connect with the right people, and use it to grow our entrepreneurial journeys. That's exactly what today's session is about, learning how to turn LinkedIn into a powerful tool that helps us showcase our ideas, attract opportunities, and create meaningful connections in the startup and business world. We're super excited to have Suhani Chadha with us today. Suhani is a third year student at Jesus and Mary College and is someone who has truly mastered the art of professional networking. She has built a vibrant LinkedIn community of over 25,000 people where she consistently shares creative and thoughtful content. What makes her journey so inspiring is how she's used LinkedIn as a launchpad for opportunities, not just for herself, but also to empower others to grow authentically in the digital space. Her work strongly aligns with the entrepreneurial spirit. She's built her own brand from scratch, grown her audience through consistent value creation, and turned her network into a genuine community. She has a talent for creating authentic content that resonates, not just broadcasting achievements, but sharing journeys, lessons learned, and actionable strategies. In today's session, Suhani will be guiding us through how we can make our profile stand out, create and share content that actually resonates, and use LinkedIn as a genuine tool to build our personal brand and attract opportunities. So, whether you're just starting out or already active on LinkedIn, this session will definitely help you up your game. So, without further delay, let's get started. So, Hani, we're so glad to have you here today. The floor is all yours.
Thank you so much, Kitika. Hi, everyone. I hope you're all doing really well. I'll just be sharing my screen just a second. Let me know if my screen's visible now. All right, perfect. So I don't think that after this beautiful introduction that's been given by Gitika, I need to talk anything more about who am I. But there's just this one thing that I would want all of you to remember while we proceed with this session. That is when I started writing content on LinkedIn, which was pretty much 1.5 years back. I was just a normal college student. I That means I basically had no fancy resume, no such case competition wins or fancy internships at the big three or the big four to talk about, because that was basically what a lot of people think that you talk about on LinkedIn. I did not have any of those, and still today I am just a final year student pursuing my bachelor's of commerce from GMC itself. I just want you to remember this. So I don't want you to treat me as someone very different. I'm still one amongst all of you, a student at GMC. So that's all I wanted to say. And we can kickstart with the session. And I really hope that, everyone present here can take something back about LinkedIn, personal branding, or anything in general. All right. So here's a little backstory about how I started content creation on LinkedIn. But before that, I would want you to look at the right side of the slide, which shows two of my very initial posts that I made on LinkedIn. The first one was right after I ended school, and the second one right before we started off at college. I had no idea about what are hooks, what is paragraphs, what are small paragraphs, what is spacing, formatting on LinkedIn, how do you put tags on LinkedIn. I had absolutely no idea about anything, and that's very clear from the two posts that you can see. But obviously, the second one talks about a hook line, which is I did not get into SRCC. So back then, I was seeing a lot of posts from people talking about, getting into their dream college. And I made this post which started with I did not get into my dream college because I thought that, it's going to hook people to read my post further. I did not have any idea about how to space my content appropriately. So that's what we see on these two posts. Now, it's back in semester two of my college, Jan 2024, when I was very free, had no big internship plans, no competitions to look forward to. So I was really free. I was talking to this one senior from JMC itself, and I asked her that, I have like plenty of time and I just don't know what to do with it. So she added me to this one group that was known as the college community group. And that's when I was first introduced to the concept of content creation on LinkedIn. Because before that, I always used to think that LinkedIn is just about networking or sharing your achievements, or that I've gotten into this college, I've bagged this internship. I thought LinkedIn's all just about that. But that's when I was introduced to the concept of content on LinkedIn, and I realized that something so much fun as content has such a wide audience on LinkedIn. And my first post, as in terms of content on LinkedIn, was more like a personal rant. I talked about how HRs and recruiters, they ghost you when you're constantly applying for a lot of internships. I was doing that back then, not getting back any rewards from the HRs and recruiters. And so that was one first post that I made in terms of content. It was more so like a personal rant without giving it a second thought. I just clicked on post, and the post received a crazy response from people, because so many people out there, especially college students, could relate to the same fact that you apply to a lot of internships, but HRs and recruiters, they tend to ghost you. So that's when I realized what importance of relatability in terms of content on LinkedIn. Cut to today, when I might be just walking in college or outside of college in some institutes, and people would randomly reach out to me saying that we've seen you somewhere, and I'd say that you might have probably seen me on LinkedIn creating some sort of content. I also get invited to some such events of some brands where I get my nails done for free because I'm a LinkedIn creator. So these are just the perks of that come alongside creating content. But LinkedIn's genuinely helped me develop meaningful connections, opportunities, and some such collaboration that I could not have thought of before starting out. So that's a little backstory about how my journey on LinkedIn started. Okay, so today's session is going to be about profile optimization and LinkedIn personal branding. But before we start off with that, it's important to know that why is it important to optimize your profile on LinkedIn, or why is it important to brand yourself as someone different on a platform like LinkedIn? Just picture this, that you're applying for, say, a job or an internship, and you have an HR or a recruiter. They would obviously want to look at your profile first before they take up your interview, or even after the interview they would just want to glance at your profile. So now you have to make sure that you give them a reason to spend some of their time on looking through your profile. Now if a person has a very dead profile, just a profile picture, a few basic details about their education, their courses, some basic information, no one's going to spend more than 15 to 20 seconds on that profile, and they're going to scroll past. That is what is our patience level these days. But if you really want someone to stop, spend 5 to 7 minutes on going through your profile, you need to give them a reason for the same. You need to show them who you are as a person. You need to show them what you are doing, be it a student, be it a working professional, an internship. You need to show them what you're doing, and you need to prove them that they should care about you, that you're a viable person for them to spend their time on. Which is why I concise it in the form of 3 C's. First up is clear. Make sure that your profile is clear in terms of the message that you want to communicate. It's clearly communicating what you are, who you are as a person. Second is credibility. In general, LinkedIn is considered to be a platform where you can find credible people to talk to, but you have to make sure that your profile shouts credibility to someone who is looking at it for the very first time. And third is clickable, which means any kind of documents, any kind of resumes or website links that a person looking at your profile might want to access, they're very accessible for the person. All right. So now, whenever I receive connection requests from people, now we're going to talk about your profile optimization, some basic aspects. Whenever I receive a connection request from someone, the first 2 things that I look up at are the profile picture and the headline of the person. And these 2 things are just enough for me to know whether I should open that profile or just leave it like that. Now, there's some very basic things that every person needs to keep in mind while you're creating your profile for the very first time. And now that I've been on LinkedIn for more than a year or two, I feel like these are very basic things, but actually they're not. A lot of people mistake in terms of creating a particular profile picture for their LinkedIn profile. So there are some basic things that you need to keep in mind. One is that you need to have a simple background. It's often suggested if it can be a plain background, but even if it's not, it's suggested it's a simple background. It should be a solo shot, and you're looking straight into the camera, not in any other direction. And what are the things that you need to strictly avoid? First, selfies. Any kind of selfies, mirror selfies, are to be strictly avoided when you're choosing a picture for your profile. Your vacation photos, pictures from your childhood, or some art based pictures, or group photos in which you can, crop other people out and you're just adding your picture. These things are to be strictly avoided. So now this is some basic information about how your profile picture should look like. So on the right side of the slide, you can see that I've added 9 pictures. Out of these, the 3 on the left, which is these 3 on the left, the first column, they show pictures that are considered to be somewhat apt as a LinkedIn profile. However, 1 to 2 basic changes can still be made, but these 3 are considered to be somewhat apt as a good profile picture for LinkedIn. But the 6 on the left are not apt due to some reason as a profile picture for LinkedIn. So if you want to make the session a little interactive, we can just pick up 2 pictures from this. And I would want someone from the audience to let me know why you think this picture is not apt as a profile picture for LinkedIn. So for example, let's pick up this picture in the middle. Can someone let me know why do you think that this is not apt as a profile picture for LinkedIn? Anyone, any reason you can think of why this is not an apt picture for, you can unmute yourself and answer.
I think it's probably the posture of the person who's the way they are posing.
Right. So I feel posture, right. Yeah,
Her eyes are also closed.
exactly.
And
Anything else?
like in the background, you can also see like someone else who's like not that professional.
Correct. It also looks informal, absolutely. So even though the person is wearing a completely black outfit, which we can consider to be very professional, but the picture in itself is not professional. See the background, there's someone else in the background, her eyes are closed, and the posture in which she's sitting is also not very professional, because we want pictures where you're looking straight into the camera, and none of this is being fulfilled in this one picture. Okay, the next one is the one below this. Any reason why this seems not apt for LinkedIn? Or if you think that it is apt, you can say that as well.
I don't think it's apt because I feel according to me picture में 3/4 picture तुम्हारी face की होनी चाहिए, so उस picture में you can't even see the face, which is not professional, so that's why.
Exactly. So the main focus of a profile picture should be on your face. Even though the person's wearing a professional outfit, but you need to make sure that your face is visible right up to your shoulders. That is what should be visible in your profile picture. So the person can also blur the background a little, because in the background you can see trees. Even in this first picture, you see trees in the background, but they've been blurred out. So that is what can be done in this picture, along with, a close up of the picture, so that the face of the person is clearly visible. All right, so I feel that we're done with the basic understanding of how to fix a profile picture for your LinkedIn profile. All right, next up is the next thing that comes into your view, which is the headline of the person. So now the headline is basically we can divide it into 4 major aspects. And this is a formula which I use personally and I talk about with everyone who asks me about headline. And this mostly fits into 90% of the logo key personality. You can also see 5 headline examples that I've added towards the right side of the slide to get an example. First up is your identity, which is basically either the college that you're studying at, the course. You can talk about your school, or if you're a working professional, so the company that you're working in. Second up is the niche. Niche, for example, for me, the niche could be content and storytelling. For someone, the niche might be the field they're interested in, say finance and tech. Someone's an aspiring consultant, they can mention that. Third is the credibility. Now you need to show that you're credible enough as a person to talk to. So for that, you can either add some company that you worked at as an intern. You might be building your own startups. You can write founder of this. You can also write building something which you might be working on, say building a YouTube channel, building an Instagram page. That adds credibility to you. Or you might be holding a position of responsibility in some society. So you can write, say, the vice president at the ESET. So that adds credibility to your profile. And fourth is the personal touch. Now, in terms of the personal touch, I would want you to look at these last 2 profile headlines that I've added here. So now the person has tried to bring creativity into how they are expressing themselves in front of the people, and it's adding a little hint of their personality in their headline as well. It's completely optional, but it's all upon your creativity. Some people just want to keep their headline very professional and very formal, so they just add the information that adds credibility. But some people might want to add a personal touch and a hint of creativity. So for that, these last two profile headlines are a very good example to understand how you can attract attention of people and want them to, stop and click on your profile to get to know you better. Next up is the banner. Now the banner is also as important as your profile and headline because it's the pretty much the third thing that a person looks at when they open up your profile, and it's very clearly visible. So now I've also tried to divide it into 4 parts, and all 4 are optional, but you can try to include as many as is possible. So first up is your USP. What makes you different from other people out on the platform? So for example, I talk about my college learnings, I talk about content. So I can write college, careers, and content. Someone might want to talk about, say, finance and tech. So they can write finance and tech. Someone is into storytelling and ghostwriting. They can use these words. Second up is your visual identity. Now herein, you can add, for example, if you're working on building your startup, you could add the startup logo. If you are working on, say, building your Instagram page, you can add the username of the page. If you're working on building a YouTube channel, you can add the link to that. This is your visual identity. Third up could be 3 to 4 quick bullet points about you that help the person understand you better. So I've seen a lot of people who are maybe interested in, say, climate change and sustainability, and they want more opportunities in these fields. So you can add these 3 to 4 words in your banner so that when a person is looking at your profile, at every possible point, they're able to understand that, okay, these are the 3 to 4 areas that this person is very keenly interested in, and they can provide you or they can connect with you for opportunities relating to the same. So you might write climate change, sustainability, and youth empowerment. These could be the 3 to 4 quick bullet points that you might want to include in your banner. And the fourth one is the CTA, which could either be, you could write follow for more such content. You could write let's connect at and your email ID, or you could add up the links of some websites that you're working on building. So these are the few pointers that you can include in your banner. It's not necessary to include all 4, but these are suggested to be included so that the person who's looking at your profile is able to get a better idea of who you are as a person and what are your interests. All right, the next is the about section of your profile, which is again, you have 2600 characters to fill in, and it's again a very good opportunity for letting someone know who you are, what you're interested in, and what are your future plans. So again, I've tried to divide it into 3 major aspects. First one is who you are. You can talk about what you're studying, where you're studying, the course you're pursuing, or maybe you're in some particular role at a company. You can talk about that. Second up is what you do. Now, this can talk about either some of the achievements that you've had over the past. This could be about some of the projects that you're working on building. If you're building your own startup, if you're building your own page, you can talk about what you're working on. You can talk about some of the internships that you might have done in the past and your learnings from the same. And the third one is what is next. So what do you expect from someone who's looking at your about section? So if I am reading the about section of this person, I would want to know that what does this person expect from me? So like we see that in this, and also what's next ke section mein, you can talk about some of your general interests. For example, this person here has talked about outside of work, I find energy in good conversations, exploring new places and perspectives. And then she's written, let's connect, and her email ID. So you are clearly telling the reader that this is what I expect from you, that if you align with any of the things that I've mentioned above, I would want you to connect with me and we can have more such meaningful discussions. So that is what can be a clear demarcation of the 3 things that you include in your about section. Also, I've seen a lot of people who include personal touch in their about section, talking about their personality, talking a little more about their interests and hobbies. That is also completely fine, but it's upon the decision of the person whether you want to keep it very professional and formal or you want to keep it a little informal along with making it professional. Next up is the education and experiences section, which is pretty much the last section we're going to talk about in the LinkedIn profile of a person. So now in the education and experiences section, you just do not have to add facts or the names of, say, if you're a member, let's assume that you're a member of the entrepreneurship cell of GNC. If you just write that, it's not going to tell anything about you or what you did as the member to any person who's reading. So it's not going to leave any impact or not adding any value. Instead, what you can do is talk about what you did as a member of the e-cell. For example, you worked on say, organizing an event, which was the annual business competition of the ESEL. You can talk about what was your role, what responsibilities did you take up as a part of this event. Second up, don't just talk about what you did, also talk about the impact it created. And as is suggested, make sure that you add a little quantitative impact in terms of numbers. For example, if you organize an event that saw, say, 200 plus registrations, mention that, because when you mention numbers or a quantitative data, it tends to attract more people and they tend to focus more on that quantitative data because it shows the impact that you had as a person. And third, make sure that whatever you're adding, it's relevant to your profile and whatever your future aspirations are. For example, someone wants to become a consultant. So now, if they talk about a life project that they onboarded for their society, that's very directly aligning with their future goals. So if someone looks up at their profile, they will know very clearly that, okay, this person has been, ever since they entered into college, they've had this clarity that they want to get into consulting. So they're working on onboarding life projects. They're also working on working as a leader in these life projects as team leads here. So that directly aligns with your future aspirations as a consultant. So make sure that your education and experiences section clearly reflects what you want to do in your future and what you've done, what steps you've taken as a college student towards achieving that. All right. So that was pretty much it about the LinkedIn profile optimization of a person. The basic pointers that anyone needs to keep in mind while you're starting off with creating a basic profile for yourself. So obviously we can take up questions towards the end, but if there are any specific questions that we want to take as of now, based on these, we can take up. Otherwise, we can move ahead. Okay, I feel that there are no questions as of now. So let's move ahead with the next section. All right, so this is a sort of fun section that I tried to add, in which I would obviously need participation of the people present here. This is more like a myth versus reality section, wherein we have three statements. I'm going to be reading aloud, and you will need to raise your hands if you think that the given statement is a myth, and you'll have to raise your hands if you think the given statement is actually true or is a reality. And then we'll decode whether it's true or not. That's just a very fun segment that we added. So the first section is statement is, you need fancy achievements before you can start posting out on LinkedIn. So the people who think that this is a myth or this is false can please raise their hands. Okay. I see 8 to 10, 11, 12. Okay. A lot of people think that this is a myth. Now, people who think that this is a reality, that you need fancy achievements to start posting on LinkedIn. I don't see any hands raised. Okay. Very good. I feel that this is actually correct. You do not need any fancy achievement. Okay. There's someone who thinks that you need achievements.
Sorry, I raised it by mistake.
Oh, that's all right. So you do think that it's a myth, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So even when I started out writing on LinkedIn like 1.5 years back, I used to think that I need to talk about some fancy case competition wins or some big internships before I can start writing on LinkedIn, because that's what I was seeing, that people are talking about how they bagged this internship or how they won a prize at this big case competition. So I thought that I need to have these things in my resume. I need to have won such competitions, and then only I'll be eligible to write on LinkedIn. But that's actually not true. You just need to know that you have a story to tell. And trust me, people on LinkedIn, they spend a lot of time reading and going through your personal stories if you add a personal touch to it. If you're, for example, if you're a president of a society and you just make a post about the fact that you're the president of the society, not a lot of people are going to care about it. Instead, if you talk about how you started off as a member and then you became the president, beach mein you faced a lot of self-doubt, you faced struggles, there were moments where you were completely clueless, but now you're handling or you're just managing a society of 100 students. That is what has more impact on people as compared to just a simple post which talks about I have become the president. So I feel you need to have a story to tell, and that is what helps you start writing on LinkedIn. Okay, now this one is my favorite one. Do you think that putting pictures on LinkedIn is unprofessional. How many of you think that it's a myth, that it's not unprofessional? Okay, ठीक है. And how many of you think that it is unprofessional to use pictures on LinkedIn? Your personal pictures on LinkedIn. Okay. Anika thinks that it's unprofessional.
No, no, I forgot to not raise my hand.
Okay, Shreya thinks that it's unprofessional.
I mean, not every photo, but few photos just get like quite weird. Like, bro, why are you posting this on LinkedIn? It is like worth Instagram, but not like LinkedIn exactly.
Okay, I get to hear that a lot, and that's why I said this is my favorite statement. So, what my take on this is that, and it's not just my take because I've been using my pictures for like as long as I can remember, but it's been as per the analysis of the impressions that a post gets, that when you add a picture to a post, the algorithm actually boosts the reach of that post, and you get a better visibility by just adding one picture in the post. And I feel that people connect a lot better with faces. They are able to relate to you when you've added a picture rather than adding, say, a picture of a thing, or rather than just plain text. If you add a picture that is relatable to the post, people are able to relate more to it. But I do get your point that sometimes the pictures are completely unrelated to what the post is talking about. That can be one thing that we can talk about. But otherwise, if you're able to somehow relate the picture to what you're talking about in the post, I feel that if it's getting you better reach, it's sort of a cherry on the top. Like, you're adding your picture and it's giving you a boost in your engagement. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But making sure that, the picture is somewhat related to the topic that you're talking about in your post. Does that make sense, Shreya?
Yeah, it does.
All right, perfect. And the last one is posting often will annoy people. How many of you think that it's a myth? Okay. Perfect. And how many of you think that it will actually annoy people if you start posting very often? No one. Great. Actually, posting often means that you're being consistent with something that you started, and if if ki bhi baat nahi hai, it honestly gets you better reach and better visibility. And if you just have a dead profile or a silent profile wherein you post say once in 3 months, your profile is not going to get any opportunities, any connections, or any collaborations. But if your profile is visible, if you're regularly, consistently posting and engaging with people, your profile gets in the minds of people. People are start remembering your name. They start seeing your pictures often on the platform. They will start remembering you. And that sort of helps you get better opportunities and more number of opportunities. So I feel posting often does not annoy people if it's reaching the right set of audience. All right, now we're going to move on to the next. Okay, how often should we post? Um, Honestly, I feel I was also going to talk about this when we start up with the section of content. But since you already asked, I feel that if you're just planning to start content on LinkedIn, when I started, I will admit, I was really inconsistent. I used to post once a week, but I would post very randomly on any day I had an idea. Some weeks I would post on Mondays, some weeks I would post on Wednesdays, very randomly. But that is one very important thing that the algorithm also functions on, that you need to be consistent with the timing and the days that you post on. But I would suggest that if you're just starting out on LinkedIn, it's very important to make sure that you're doing it as per your schedule and as per your availability. So for example, if for 1 week you're posting every single day, and the next week, because of the college exams pressure, yeah, because of your regular assignments and stuff, you're not able to maintain up to that consistency, then there's no point. Instead, if you post twice a week, एक week में तुमने 2 बार post किया, then the next week you're able to manage that despite your exams, and you're able to continue that for say a month. That is what makes more sense rather than just going about consistently posting for 1 week straight and then ghosting the platform entirely. So I just feel that you need to make sure that whatever decision you're making according to your schedule, that also aligns with your college. Your Many of you might also be starting out with internships or any other things or side projects. You need to make sure that you're able to make out time for the platform. Uske hisab se make a schedule for yourself and stick to that. There's no need to be very visible on the platform right when you start. Even if it's a very decent schedule that you build for yourself, say posting once a week. I started with posting once a week, although I was not consistent, but you should be consistent and you should make a schedule for yourself, even if it's just say posting once a week. That does not matter, but make sure that you're consistent with the schedule that you set for yourself. Once a week at the same day, same time, every week for at least a month. I hope that's clear, Shreya. If you have any other question. All right, perfect. Okay, so now we are switching on to the content wala section, which is more so my favorite because I love talking about writing on LinkedIn. So here I've compiled a section of some of my posts that went very viral, and I will talk about the reasons that I think they went viral. Obviously, we're not going to read through all of these, but I'll give a gist of why I think these posts went viral. One big reason why the posts went viral was relatability, making sure that whatever I'm writing, a larger set of audience is able to relate to. So if I write a post about, say, which is specifically aligned towards people who are interested in consulting, then there's a limited set of people in my network who are interested in consulting, and सिर्फ उतने ही लोग relate कर पाएंगे मेरी post से. But if I write a post which is in general, say related to DU struggles of every student, now मेरे network में say 70% of the people are from the DU network. Either they're currently students, they might be aspiring to be DU students, or they might have just graduated. So if I'm making a post about college or DU per se, it aligns with a very large set of audience from my network, which actually helps in getting the post very viral or reaching a larger set of audience, because a large number of people are able to relate to that post. Because मैंने college के बारे में कोई post करी, now someone who's just graduated, who's just started with their corporate life, would also relate to the struggles of a college student, and someone who's in college would relate. Someone who is aspiring to be a college student would also get to know more about कि college में जाके ऐसा होता है वैसा होता है. So I feel making sure that the post is relatable and it's also catering to a wider set of audience. That is one factor. Second, I feel is the authenticity of the posts, making sure that whatever I'm talking about, see, you follow a lot of people on LinkedIn, you might get inspired by their content, but make sure that whatever you are posting, it has a hint of your story to it. You might be inspired by some creator's format and you might just want to use that format into your posting, but make sure that you're telling your story through that format. Make sure that it's raw and it's authentic, because the main aim of people is to know who you are as a person. So I feel that authenticity was the second factor. And for the third factor, we'll move on to this slide. So these are two of my posts that went that performed really well. Now, one thing that's common in these two posts is the formatting of the posts. Like I showed you my very first post, I did not have any idea about formatting, paragraph spacing, gaps, anything. But in these posts, I feel that they're very short, crisp, so no person has to spend like more than 2 minutes on reading through, and they get a gist of the entire idea of the post, because they are formatted in such a way कि आपको ज़्यादा focus करके भी नहीं पढ़ना, because there are enough spaces in between, so naturally you are able to read through it. Secondly, you do not have to spend much time on to understanding, because I've tried to use minimal possible words, but very simple words, so that no one has to spend too much time into trying to understand what the post is about. So I feel formatting of the post in a way that, and that formatting is completely upon you to decide. You might want to write very long posts, which I'll also talk about later. You might want to write very long posts, but make sure that it's very easy for the audience to understand and read through it. Aajkal people have very low patience level. So you need to make sure that when you're making a post, it's easier for people to understand and read through it, and they do not have to spend too much time into, reading through it entirely. So that's what I try to focus on, making sure that it's short, crisp, and to the point. And I think that was the third reason why these posts perform really well. Okay, so here are my 3 go-tos for content that I talk about with anyone who. Hanji, I think there's a question.
No, I'm sorry. I raised my hand by mistake.
All right, no worries. So these are my 3 go-tos for content that I usually talk about whenever anyone's asking me about content. And one of my seniors told me this statement, and it's stayed with me and I wanted to share it here. First is consistency gets you seen. So as we talked about how often, like Shreya asked, how often should we post? So you need to make up a schedule for yourself. Say, for example, you decide that you're going to post every Tuesday and every Thursday from now on at 6 p.m. Make sure that you stick to the schedule for at least 1 month and you show up regularly. And when I say show up, it's not just in terms of posting. Once you start posting, you're actually becoming a part of the larger network of creators on this platform. So you also need to make sure that you're regularly engaging with the posts of other people. Not just posting is not enough. This is one very big mistake that I myself committed when I was in like very initial months of posting. I never used to engage with posts of other people. So that's also very important because engaging with posts of other people helps you get seen in their comment section, in their audience as well. So it helps you get a better visibility. Also, there's one more thing that I would want to talk about here, which is if any one of you ever plans on starting with content, this is one thing that I've talked to about with almost 90% of the people who are creating right now. They have told me about this, that once you start, initially there's a phase wherein you might have a lot of self doubt in terms of why exactly am I doing this? What exactly am I gaining by, writing posts on LinkedIn? And sometimes your peers might also talk about the same with you, saying that, what do you think you're doing by writing on LinkedIn? I'm talking about this because this actually happened with me when I started out content, and it's happened with most of the people I know who are like very well known creators today. So that phase could range from say a week to 4 months, anything. I feel like you need to cross through that phase, and the only way to do that is by showing up consistently. Even if you're initially getting just 10 to 12 likes per post, even if your peers are talking about the same, even if you are doubting yourself that why exactly am I doing this, if you once decide to do the same, trust me, you need to show up regularly, considering that you want to see results from this. You need to show up consistently for the same, and that's a phase only consistency can help you cross. Second up is authenticity gets you heard. Now, again, as I mentioned, that you might follow a lot of creators on LinkedIn, and you might be really inspired by some of their posts, and you might just want to exactly copy paste their format. But I would say that make sure that whatever you're talking about, it has a hint of your personality in it, because the entire aim of writing or creating content on LinkedIn is for people to know who you are and understand you personally, or listen to your stories. So make sure that you're being very raw and very authentic when you're writing your posts, and add a personal touch to it. Obviously, get inspired by the content of other creators. A lot of my posts are inspired by the content that I read, say, of someone on Instagram, on LinkedIn. But then I make sure that I attach it in some way to my personal stories so that it has a sense of my understanding into it. Third up is impact gets you remembered. Now, when you read through the hook line of a particular post, why do you want to click on read more? Like, give someone a reason to click on that read more. And once they read through your post, make sure that they feel that, they spent 1 to 2 minutes reading through your post. It was worth reading. Add some value to the person. Even if you're sharing your personal story, make sure that it's adding some value to the other person and they feel worth it, that they spent 1 to 2 minutes onto reading that post of yours. Make sure that it's worth it in terms of reading. These are my three go-tos for content. Okay, so now again, here's this fun segment that I thought we could add to make the session a little more interactive. And this is pretty much the second last aspect of the session. So I've added 4 hook lines from random creators, key posts, and I would want you to type it in the chat box. What rating do you give from 1 to 5, just on the basis of this hook line? And then I'll tell you how the post performed actually. But just on judging on the basis of कि ये hook कैसा लग रहा है आपको, whether you would want to click on read more or you would just want to skip. You can give it a rating from 1 to 5, 5 being the highest and 1 being the lowest. Okay. So the first hook is, she left him 2 days before his birthday, just a text. What do you think? What rating would you want to give to this hook line? You can type it in the chat box. You can say unmute yourself or anything. Okay. All right. Okay, does anyone want to unmute and give a reason for the rating they gave? No pressure, but if you're comfortable, if you would want to unmute, and especially the ones who gave like 2 or 3 valley rating, do you want to like unmute and say? Anyone? Okay. I would personally give this hook line a rating of 4. Anji, I think someone's unmuted. Hello. Okay. So I think that I would give this post, this hook line, a rating of 4. Am I clearly audible? Because I think there's some background noise. Okay, perfect. So now this post, I would also love to share the link of this post somewhere in the chat box if people would be to talk about why you think it's a 5.
Looks like a very uncommon thing to do. Like, why would anyone reject Big Four offers? So it builds curiosity.
Exactly. So see, if there's someone who's pursuing CA who wants to do their articleship, they would obviously be very intrigued by this hook line. But I am someone who has no kuch lena dena nahi hai CA se. I still wanted to read through this post because how can someone reject a big four ka offer to pursue anything at a mid-sized firm? That is what builds up the curiosity, and the person then explains why or what was their thought process behind rejecting a big four offer and everything. So I feel that it's a very good hook in terms of catching the attention of people and generating curiosity कि people would want to click on read more and know the story of the person even if they're not pursuing CA or anything. Does anyone have anything else to talk about this hook? Okay, now we have the last hook, which is at the age of 19 I've tried my hands at a hell lot of things. Okay. Would anyone want to talk about why this feels relatable or why whatever rating you gave?
If they have tried their hand at many things, so that means they have a lot of experience and they want us to know what new things, new fresh things they might have tried, which we might not know as an opportunity or maybe just a learning thing. So it's good to read post.
Okay, perfect. So just a little thing to say here that this is a hook that I used in one of my posts, and this post actually did really well. But I never understood ki what was it the hook that made people want to read it, or was it the post, was it the content and whatsoever. So I also wanted to know like a sort of feedback on why this hook worked. So this is from one of my posts actually, and I got a feedback on the same. So again, my motive behind using this hook was that I wanted to show the diversity of experience that I've had. But this was actually inspired by a format of from a creator I've been following for a very long time on Instagram, and I try to incorporate the format he used in his reels into one of my posts on LinkedIn. And I talked about the things that I've experienced along with adding a lesson towards the end कि इतना सब करने के बाद what I've learned from all of this. So yeah, that was the story behind this hook. So is there anything anyone wants to talk about this hook?
I think we're at this age where all of us are trying our hands at a lot of things. Me personally, I have interests in different things at different hours of the day. So I feel like I could very easily relate to this because it starts off at, even wanting to decide what course you want to pursue and how that stems from the experiences you've had. This is very relatable. So I have to give like kudos to you because that this is very catchy.
Thank you so much. It really means a lot. And that was exactly the motive behind this post as well. So, motive achieved. Okay, so that was the little fun thing that we had. And this is pretty much the last slide of the PPT I created. So these are some go-to content ideas that I thought, like three go-to content ideas. So if anyone's willing to, go ahead with starting content, like say today or tomorrow, these are three ideas that you can anytime pick up and talk about. Because I feel that if you're even a fresher and you've spent 2 to 3 months in this college, you would have developed some sort of understanding. And these are the three ideas that you can talk about very randomly. And I also wanted, if we can have people from the audience, it's completely voluntary, but if someone from the audience would want to like randomly think of some hook line and in say 15 seconds, 30 seconds and talk about it here, like some any hook line that you can think of which you think might work, since we've discussed so much about hooks already. So anything that you want to put forward. Even if there's no idea, we can actually take up these ideas towards the end in the chat box. Or if there's any content idea that you have, you can talk about it. But this was pretty much it about the things that I wanted to share from my experiences of writing on LinkedIn. And I feel that it's been very useful for everyone here, and everyone can take back some learning, some sort of learning from the session. And now I would be open to any kind of questions if you have. Hanji Shreya.
Okay, so firstly, I would love to mention that I really like connections on LinkedIn, and when I saw it in the group ki you were taking the session, I got quite excited. Ki oh, I know her. So that is one thing. I love your content. And apart from that, I have like a small request from you that my post, like when I used to post when I got into college, I
Hmm.
posted like thoda consistently, दो तीन like weeks में. So that time the posts were quite well. जैसे initial post के हिसाब से one of them got like 133 के आसपास likes.
Hmm.
So and after a while my reach suddenly dropped completely, like 20 likes आते barely. So
Hmm.
is it any way that आप एक बार देख के बता सको is like where exactly am I going wrong? If you can just look into my profile and suggest something.
Do you want to like share your screen right now and share your profile if you're comfortable with that?
Yeah, sure, I would love to.
Okay, wait, let me just stop sharing then. But let me tell you that this is honestly very normal in terms of the reach. It happened with me as well. The first time I started creating content, initially reach ekdam boom pe chali gayi thi. My first post got 200 plus likes, and then it got down as 50, 40. It's very normal. But yeah, you could share your profile as well.
Is my profile visible?
हाँ जी, screen visible है आपकी.
Just give me a second. It's taking थोड़ा सा long. Is it visible now?
हाँ जी, it's visible.
So this is like everything अभी तक जितना मैंने देख करा था.
I feel that you've honestly added up a lot of stuff as for the about section and the headline that we talked about. I think you've already incorporated a lot of it in your profile.
Thank you. See, this one I post about Dhanteras, like abhi.
Hmm.
And I attached the photo like related to the content. मैंने आखिरी में लिखा भी ऐसे ही है like थोड़ा सा. And again the thing you were talking about कि like your face card works kind of. So this was fine.
Okay, so I'll give like एक दो चीजें जो मुझे समझ आ रही है alongside the post. जैसे अब for example, this is the one post that you've written. So आपने start किया है. Do you always wanted to be a professor? I asked the question in the right. Okay, so now as I mentioned that जो मैंने like the thing we did towards the end about the hooks that we start the post with. So now
Mm-hmm.
what you started the post with, you could have just started the post with, do you always wanted to be a professor? And उसके बाद से you can continue it after the read more option. I feel that when you start your post with a very long statement, it does not help people understand it because अगर आपका make sure that your whatever is the first line of your post, it's very catchy for people. So if you want them to click on read more, ये जो आपने first line लिखी है, make it in
Mm-hmm.
such a way that you bring it into lesser number of words, say 5 to 6 words, कि वो एक ही line में visible हो LinkedIn पे. As if you said कि like you've been seeing my content काफी time से, so what I usually try is that I start the post with just one line or like one statement, so that it's
Mm-hmm.
visible एक ही line में, and people do not have to spend much time into reading and understanding कि post किस बारे में होगी. So if you want to, if this post, I don't know कि ये post किस बारे में अभी, but when I read the first line of the post, I don't get much idea कि आप किस बारे में बात करने वाले हो because I am able to read till first mentor mentee much needed. मैंने यहाँ तक पढ़ा सिर्फ. So I'm not
Mm-hmm.
able to get much idea कि post किस बारे में होगी. But if you are able to make the hook into something that is just 6 to 7 words का, and the first time a person looks at it, the person is able to understand कि okay इस बारे में बात होने वाली है. Now I'll click and read more about it. So I think that is one thing that you can actually work on in terms of the post key starting or the hook line.
Okay, and I think ये काफी ज़्यादा lengthy भी हो गई थी, so maybe that can also be a reason.
That might be a reason, but I still know a lot of people जो बहुत लंबे posts लिखते हैं, but still people are able to read that. But I would suggest that when you're just starting out on a platform, I would suggest that make sure that the posts have a decent length. बहुत छोटी भी नहीं, क्योंकि जो मैंने अपनी 2-3 posts दिखाई वो बहुत ही छोटी थी. But for me, short form content is working, but that cannot work for every person. So you might try different forms of content. Say आप छोटे posts लिख के देखो which are like which have say 2 to 3 paragraphs. At the same time, the next post you can write which has say 5 to 6 paragraphs. Try out.
Mm-hmm.
Initially, you are starting out on LinkedIn, तो अभी तक आपको पता नहीं है कि आपके ऑडियंस के लिए क्या वर्क करता है क्या नहीं करता. If you plan on posting consistently, you can try out different ways में content. Say try out 3 से 4 paragraphs वाली. Try posts which have 6 to 7 paragraphs. Try out on different topics because अभी आपको नहीं पता what is working for your audience and what is not. You have the full authority and full freedom to try out whatever kind of content you want to talk about.
Okay, and like here is the post I was talking about. This one got like quite well as compared to most of my posts.
क्योंकि इसका hook is very catchy because you've talked about girls college काफी boring होगा. Now a lot of people, I also made one post इसी same चीज पे and I started it with I hate being in an all girls environment, and then the post was actually talking about how I love being in an all girls college. So now ऐसे वाले जो hooks होते हैं wherein you're actually, this hook generates curiosity. A lot of people who are actually in girls college abhi would want to read about this. A lot of people who are in co-ed would also want to read about this because you've talked about कि girls college काफी boring होगा. And आपने
हाँ.
लिखा I agreed to this a week ago, but now question mark. So now you're showing कि आपके perspective में एक shift हुआ है over time. In terms of पहले आप सोचते थे कि boring होगा, but now that you've spent 1 week here, आपका perspective change हो गया है. So a lot of people might want to see how that perspective changed. And इसलिए इस post का hook is very nice. That's what I'm saying. कि the hook is something that generates curiosity, and a lot of people might have clicked on it and read through it. So that could be a very good reason ki why the post like got a good engagement.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense, much more sense. And this was my first post. So, yeah.
Wow, okay. I think that if you've been consistent in terms of writing, you can try on experimenting with different kinds of hooks, different kinds of writing styles. से स्पेसिंग थोड़ी सी डिफरेंट करके देखो, बिकॉज इवन फॉर मी अगर आप मेरे इनिशियल पोस्ट देखोगे टू राइट इन वेरी बिग पैराग्राफ्स, स्पेसिंग देती थी मैं, बट आई यूज्ड टू राइट वेरी बिग पैराग्राफ्स. नाउ आई राइट जस्ट एक एक दो दो लाइंस के पैराग्राफ्स में. यू विल इवेंचुअली फिगर आउट व्हाट स्टाइल ऑफ राइटिंग वर्क्स फॉर यू, बट उसके लिए आपको अलग अलग राइटिंग स्टाइल से एक्सपेरिमेंट करके देखना पड़ेगा, एंड यू कंप्लीटली लाइक अलाउड टू डू दैट, बिकॉज अभी it's a very initial stage, and if you've decided to start out with content, I feel that that is the one thing that you should work on.
Okay, and वैसे just on to get a criticize करके अगर कुछ भी आपको लगा कि I should have worked better या ऐसा कुछ
In terms of your LinkedIn profile, you're asking.
ऐसा. Yes, yes.
No, I feel like even in terms of the headline, you've mentioned a lot of things that we talked about, like the societies or your course and everything. So I feel that your headline is perfect in those terms. And you've also mentioned peer educator and public speaker, which is also showing some of your interests. So if a person looks at your headline, they'll clearly know that, okay, this is Shreya, she's doing this, she's a part of these societies, and she has this interest. So in terms of that, it's clear. And आपका about section मैंने पढ़ा नहीं है, but I feel that it's going to be apt because yeah, that's what I'm saying. You mentioned about what you've done, what skills you've gained over, and I feel that ये आपके school के experiences हैं. So I feel that you're talking about what you've learned from school. You've also talked about what you're currently doing, and towards the end you've written that I'm always eager to learn or write. So that's what we talked about, three sections: that what you currently do, what you're working on, or what you've learned from the past, and the third one is that what you look for like in the next few years. So I think it's apt in terms of the about section also. Hanji, I feel that experiences and education section is also nicely done. You've added the skills, you've added content in terms of कहाँ से आपने क्या सीखा, skills वाला section में add किया है. Hanji, I feel that it's all good. Once you spend more time in these societies, आप इसमें और better तरीके से explain कर सकते हो in terms of like we talked कि आपने किस चीज़ में participate किया, कोई event organize करवाया, उसका क्या impact था. Once you spend more time in the societies जहाँ पे आप हो, तो उसके explanation में आप थोड़ा और चीज़ें add कर सकते हो. But otherwise, I feel it's all good. Like it's nicely done. We can also take any more questions if there are.
Thank you so much for the review. Like genuinely, it means a lot. Like coming from someone like you.
That is so sweet. You're welcome.
And also, just one more thing, like it is not exactly about LinkedIn profile, but as a LinkedIn a whole, that we have a lot of people, a lot of kind of people connect with us, and like few of them are quite weird. Like they just don't understand it is LinkedIn and not Instagram. They just went from hi, how are you, lunch kar liya, and Instagram they do, and it's just very weird. So, what exactly should we do? मतलब अब तो I just don't reply to such text. But तब भी लगता है ना कि is it right thing to do or not वैसा वाला.
Yeah, so that's also one statement that I wanted to include in the reality versus myth wala, that not everyone on LinkedIn is just for professional purposes, and you will find a lot of people who might just reach out to you. So, a friend of mine, she had nothing on her profile. उसने सिर्फ अपनी profile picture add करी थी, and just based on that profile picture, 5 to 6 people started getting into her DMs. Like she genuinely had nothing, just her college name and profile picture, and सिर्फ उसके basis पे people started getting into her DMs, asking random stuff. So this is very common on LinkedIn. When I started out, I initially used to be very creeped out because of this, but now I've sort of gotten used to it. This is very like normal. LinkedIn पे ये बहुत होता है. But all you can do is you should not reply to these kinds of comments or these kind of messages that you get on your DMs. And if they're getting beyond the point, you obviously always have the option of blocking the other person. And उस बात का कोई बुरा नहीं लगाना कि आपने किसी को block कर दिया है, because if that person is creeping you out, obviously that is that is the best solution that you have. Just ignore the text for a while. But for me, it happened that a person kept on texting me over and over again. So the only solution I had was to block that person. So do not ever feel that you're doing something wrong by blocking someone on LinkedIn because it's a professional platform. if the person is showing unprofessionalism सामने से, so you can like always block them. That is very common on LinkedIn, so you don't need to worry about that.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Welcome. If you have any other questions, we can take up those as well. Okay, so I don't think there are any more questions, and so that was it from my side, and it was a pleasure taking up this session. I was honestly very nervous before taking the session, but I really hope that everyone could have taken back something from the session. And it was always a pleasure working with the societies of GMC.
Thank you so much, Suhani. That was truly insightful. I'm sure everyone here has taken away something valuable, whether it's about refining your profile, engaging more meaningfully, or just being more confident in putting yourself out there. And as budding entrepreneurs, these are skills that go far beyond social media. They're about how we build trust, visibility, and credibility in any space we step into. And so, with that, we wrap up today's session. A huge thank you again to Suhani for taking the time to share such valuable insights with us. And of course, thank you to everyone who joined in and participated today. We hope you're leaving with new ideas and inspiration to make LinkedIn work for you, not just as a professional platform, but as a space to grow your entrepreneurial journey and personal brand. And yeah, have a great evening, everyone, and we'll see you in our next session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vaishnavi. That really means a lot.
Guys, you can leave the meeting.